welcome to Youthviewz. A quick little apology to everybody who tuned in on Friday night. We are getting to grips with this live YouTube thing, and I've took advice from lots and lots of different people. And let's just put it like this: my main tech guy is out of the country at the moment, but he is returning, and so the future streams should hopefully be a lot more technologically reliable. So we are running this again, and I am reliably informed that we are live and we are on YouTube. And when I say we, I have my very, very good friend, my socialist friend, Lauren. Lauren,
Hi.
how are we?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I think, when we did that live stream the other day, I think it was an absolute smasher. And I'm just nervous whether we'll get the same quality of content and quality of stream as we did then.
Aye, the pattern was pretty banging.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's give it a go. I do believe it's working, but like I say, we'll run it again. We'll test the same subjects again, and hopefully, when our tech guy gets settled in,
Miss him.
we'll be in better HD and better sound than even comes on your TV at home. Without further ado, let's get into it then. So, the first subject that we discussed on Friday, which we'll go with again, was about the real living wage. And as many know who follow Jeremy Corbyn or the Labour Party or what have you, Jeremy Corbyn delivered a speech in the middle of last week, beginning to middle of last week, where there was a number of new policies outlined. And one of the policies that he outlined was the fact that the real living wage would be raised to £10. But the significant thing was that it would be not just for 18-year-olds plus, but also for under 18s, i.e. between 16 and 17-year-olds, basically. So we had a bit of a discussion about that, didn't we, Lauren? And how do you think this would positively affect you?
Yeah, it was a good interesting discussion we had there. For many people, for many young people especially, they don't really have a choice to get a job because the boundaries for EMA are a bit rubbish. And so for many of them, it's their way of staying in school and helping contribute to the family.
Yeah.
But obviously, I work 2 jobs over summer. And when some of my co-workers were working out how much we would have earned if we were 18 and if we were 21, it turns out I would have made about £420 more if I was 21.
Wow.
So that's a really significant amount. And as you know, I'm going to uni. That would have went a long way. That would have been about a month and a half's rent.
Remind us, what are you studying at uni, Lauren?
I'm starting uni in September to study politics, philosophy, and economics.
Wow.
David Cameron watch out.
Are you looking forward to that?
I really am. It's really exciting. I'm the first in my family to go, so it's a big deal, and I get a bang university.
Wow. And so tell me, if this policy comes in, if Labour were to win a general election and this policy were to sort of come in, tell me how will it affect you and your sort of the fact that you are at university, the fact that will need. I mean, we can come on to in a minute free tuition fees. I'm not quite sure that will directly affect you, but certainly the future generation, because that's another policy that Labour are talking about. How will this sort of increase of living wage for someone of because you're turning 17, aren't you, in Feb?
I am 17. I'm turning 18 in February.
Right. Okay. So there's a very good chance that this policy would affect you in that age bracket. Yeah. Would that make a difference for you then?
It really, really would. I was right on the cutoff for EMA, but EMA isn't something. If you don't know what EMA is, it's educational maintenance allowance, and it allows working class kids to stay in school, just in case anyone watching isn't sure.
So that was to encourage, pay young people to stay involved in education, if I remember correctly.
Especially from like working class backgrounds and young people who might not really be able to. I was right on the cutoff for that. But
right, so you missed that then.
Yeah. No. The thing about EMA is it doesn't really take into account how many siblings there are in your family and other circumstances of your family, and it's really hard to get if a parent's self-employed, which my dad is.
Yeah.
I had to work 2 jobs towards the end of my school, and I had to over summer. If we had that living wage, I would have only had to work one, and I would have been able to spend more time studying or going out with friends and stuff. So it would have went a long way for me, especially. And I know many friends who were on money, and it would have really helped them and helped their families.
And you worked 2 jobs you mentioned earlier, didn't you?
Over summer or towards the end of like my school, I got a second job, and I worked since I was 15 because, as I said, I'm from a very working class family, and that's just what you do. But since I started, I've been on about $4.20 an hour.
Wow.
Which in this day and age is pennies.
Yeah.
And the thing about the minimum wage currently is it doesn't take into account things like transport. Because a bus ticket, a child's ticket is 16 and under. Under 16 even. But you're getting paid less than everyone else when you're 16.
Yeah.
Tickets and stuff are more expensive. Money doesn't go as far for 16-year-olds.
Yeah. Wow. And the thing is that when we're concentrating on young people, and I think the unfortunate thing about young people is, especially the ones going to university, they're almost perceived as these students who are basically spending money on alcohol. But what you're describing here, Lauren, is basically survival sort of living. I mean, the fact that you're working 2 jobs at the moment doesn't sound to me that you're out binging, and it's like you're trying to live. I'm sure you've had your moments though, Lauren, eh?
Yeah, have the moment.
If I recall some of your Discord chats, I'm not gonna share anything individually. I'm sure you can live a little bit, but I mean, on a serious note, I mean that little increase will help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, on a serious note, if it wasn't for having my 2 jobs, I wouldn't be able to go out with friends and have the fun that I do. And towards the end of my school, it did put a real pressure on me that I felt that I had to work and I had to go to school and I had to go out and see friends, because there quite frankly isn't enough time in the day for what young people nowadays are expected to do.
Yeah.
And that wage increase, it would have meant that I could have like halved my hours.
Yeah.
And it would have taken so much pressure off me.
Well, what Jeremy Corbyn talked about in his speech, and this was telling really, because what he talked about is that 16 and 17-year-olds are doing the same types of tasks at work, yet they are sharing employment with those that are older than them that are on more money. And so there's been all of this controversy around gender pay gap in the last sort of year or two. And I think if you remember the results around what the BBC was paying males versus females was a really big thing. This doesn't seem to have hit the mainstream media though, does it?
No, 100% not. There is very clearly a gap in how young people and older people are paid. And in some cases, the younger people might have more experience. For example, I know 2 girls who work in the same place.
Yeah.
One of them is younger, who is 17, but has been working there since she was 16.
Right.
One who's 18 and has been working there for 3 months. Yet the one who's 18 gets paid a significantly larger amount of money just because she was born.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, that's shocking, really, from what you're describing. But my sort of question to you, Lauren, is it why is it that the gender thing made it into the mainstream media, and there was all these lists and whatnot published in terms of who's paid more? I think if I remember correctly, Gary Lineker was the highest paid person in the BBC, and that females were still at a sort of loss. But it doesn't appear. I mean, is that a reflection on society or politics at the moment that they don't seem to be? They're missing a trick here in terms of looking after the future.
Possibly, yeah. For one, the headline, women paid less than men, certainly grabs a lot of attention. Because
Yeah,
yes, there is still a long way for gender equality to go in our society.
yeah,
But the pay gap for gender has been illegal for years now. It more centres around things like women not being able to progress in the workplace due to inequalities in maternity and
yeah,
paternity leave.
absolutely. Yeah,
But
yeah,
the reason that it doesn't, I think that the lack of pay equality for young people doesn't get the same media time that gender pay gaps do is because young people simply can't vote.
yes, yeah,
And young people that do vote, 18 to 24-year-olds, they're the group that's least likely to vote in an election. So I
yeah,
think the best way to get around this would be to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote because 16 and 17-year-olds in Scotland can vote for their MSPs.
yeah,
And it has a higher rate of turnout than 18 to 24-year-olds, with 75% voting and 97% say they would vote in future elections.
yeah, yeah,
18-year-olds that don't vote will become 50-year-olds that don't vote. So it's like a cycle of voter apathy. But if 16, 17-year-olds are able to get out and get voting, they'll continue to vote as they age. And that's how we'll see real change in things like the pay inequality through the ages. So yeah.
yeah. I think we lost the sound there for a second, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and I think sort of certainly, if that were to be the case, this policy, which directly positively affects young people, only pulls them toward politics a little bit more. There is no way that the current status quo is going to allow the voting age to be dropped, because you can as good as say, um, that the Conservatives are finished, because I think the young vote is, generally, I mean, if you look at the Momentum movement, and what have you, it generally tends to be with Corbyn's Labour, doesn't it?
Yeah, you see the Conservatives, they have a real problem with what's called the grey vote, which is basically the old retired vote. The Conservatives know that these people are going to die soon, probably because of their policies.
Yeah, yeah,
So you see them try to appeal to young people with things like the emojis on their new Twitter and stuff. But
yeah,
I like to think that young people are smarter than that and they see through lies and they see what the Tories have done to us
yeah,
over these past years. And I hope that they'll go out there and vote Labour to get a real positive change in our society.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm with you there, Lauren. I hope that's the case too. So while we are still on the subject, Lauren, in terms of still on the subject of age, and pay, we also remember and recall that Mr. Ian Duncan Smith's think tank, which generally these think tanks are responsible for the creation of future policies. Um, Talked about this policy of raising the pensionable and retiring age from 67 to 75. Now, when I heard about this, I was shocked, to be honest with you, and there was all sorts of rhetoric around, well, people are living longer now. But isn't this just a good old Tory policy that is now attacking the working class people? And the reason why I ask you that, Lauren, and I want you, because you remind me, you're from Glasgow, aren't you?
I am from Glasgow, I'm just outside Glasgow.
So I'd want you to, in your answer, Lauren, just talk to me a little bit about what the average age expectancy in your area and various parts of the north of the country is, and if there were to raise, if we were to have to work to 75, well, that's clearly going to affect young people like yourself, because this is a policy
Yeah.
that could make it in the next 10 to 15 years, isn't it?
Yeah, in 2006, the life expectancy for a male in Calton was 58.7 years. Obviously, that's been up to about, I think it's 66, I'd need to check, but it still shows just how in the poorest areas, life expectancy is significantly lower than 75.
Yeah,
This is just a way for the Tories to keep the working classes working up until their death so
yeah,
they don't have to pay out for state pension and things. And we already know that the longer you keep working, the lower your life expectancy is because of the stress that will put on your body.
Well, this is what nobody's really talking about, you see, and I know that the Mirror ran with a piece on this, but when I was doing my research into this, Lauren, I sort of had a look into what the not just in sort of the areas that you're sort of where you live, but so in many of the northern sort of areas of this country, the life expectancy falls up to, I think, if I remember correctly, 74 and 73. So, bless those people, they'd fall literally just a year or two short of their pension, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, are essentially saying work till you die, sod your hard work, we don't care.
Basically, that's what
Basically
they're
sums
saying.
up our government. They don't care. They don't care about anyone bar themselves. If
Yeah,
you don't know that by now, you've not been paying attention.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely, and so is this a policy that you would? I know the answer, what the answer is going to be, Lauren, but is this a policy that you would welcome moving forward?
absolutely not. As I make no secret on Twitter, I come from a very working class family. My dad is a manual labourer. And I was actually in the car with him listening to the radio when I first heard of this policy, and he turned to
Yeah,
me and went, Jesus Christ, the Tories are trying to kill me now.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
he
That's
is 50 and he's already thinking, I'm going to need to retire in the next 5 years. My back's already going.
yeah. That's
Manual
literally
labourers in the working
what it
classes
is.
can't keep up working until they're 75. It's just
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah. And there's an arrogance about the Tories, and when there's policy talk of these kinds of things, because um, I remember we discussed this on Friday as well, didn't we? That they seem to pick their moments when these things. I mean, there's a general election looming, possibly. The last time there was a general election was Theresa May's attack on the
Dementia
the
attack.
that's it, the dementia tax.
Yeah.
I mean, what are these guys so sure that they would win the next election? That actually I mean, you'd think that they'd
Maybe
shut
all
up
their
about these
policies
things.
are just really horrific.
Sorry, say that again.
Maybe all of their policies are just really horrific.
I mean, is that the best that they can come out with? Seriously?
You know what? It's the Tory party, so if that is their absolute best, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, yeah. So
Like they are a cruel and callous sponge.
what's with regards to these policies, and obviously the policy, the potential policy of Mr. Corbyn, and raising the living wage for youngsters. What's your message to young voters of the future?
Vote for one.
Yeah,
You'll likely get a pay increase if you do, as if
yeah,
you need any more persuasion. But I seen a tweet by Irvin Welsh, the author of Trainspotting, banging book, and he said, when you vote, if life's going well for you, if life's going bad for you, vote for a better life for yourself.
yeah,
And if it's
yeah,
going good for you, vote for a better life for others.
yeah.
And I think that's something that we as young people should really carry on and like think about in our lives, because we're living in the time of Brexit. So much is possible in politics. We really are writing our country's history right now.
Mm,
So
mm.
we as young people need to get out and we need to vote for a better future.
Yeah, that's a really, really insightful point, Lauren, and
Feeling that
absolutely.
start a revolution.
Listen, it's young people like yourself, Lauren, that can start and will start a revolution.
Thank
So
you.
fair
Tony
play.
Blair, I'm coming for you.
Sorry, say that again.
Tony Blair, I'm coming for you.
Oh, definitely. Tony Blair and his cronies, we are coming for you. So, Lauren, the other thing that we were going to discuss today was MMT. Now,
Yeah.
when and I've got to say to the viewers out there that I'm well versed enough with politics and socialist politics, but I for one hadn't heard of this before Lauren and I spoke about it. And MMT stands for Modern Monetary Theory, and from what I understand, Lauren, and in a second, just fill in the gaps for us. What I understand that it's basically a theory that suggests that central government or those that are the custodians of the money, so whether it be the Bank of England in our case, basically creates wealth so that that wealth can be spent on public services without the need to depend on the market and the economy in order to decide whether austerity exists and whatnot. So at the moment, let's say in the last 10 years, because we went through a global recession and that the political choice was for austerity to be implemented, that hit mostly, the cuts were hitting public services, which affected people from an array and all different walks of lives. But more so when austerity affects the people who, if you want to call it this, the lower end of society, those who economically don't have as much as the people at the so-called top of the ladder. Now, this theory would avoid having to depend on the economy performance and actually spend in order to give public services or deliver the best quality public services, which in turn then gives people, whether you're at the bottom of that so-called ladder or the top, it literally brings them up and gives them a better quality of life. And that divide that is between rich and poor basically lessens, and that the poor rise up to economically rise up anyway, and not just economically, because if they economically are doing well, we know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're doing well financially, you're more likely to live a better life. But I know you're going to fill this gap in a second, because then actually, if you've got more money in the pocket, you're going to spend more when you go out to the shop. And actually, in turn, that boosts the economy and that model. So fill in the gaps, please, Lauren. If I think I've got it a bit better this time around, but tell me.
First of all, I'm by no means an economics expert, so I will try to explain this the best I can.
You're far more superior than me, though, Lauren. I'll give you that, definitely.
Thank you. So, first of all, MMT is a departure from conventional economics. Most economic professors or experts would tell you that you can't just go printing money. It's a bad idea. We all do that. Like, you've heard the stories of Zimbabwe and Germany before the First World War. Second World War. But MMT says governments can control their own currency and can spend freely, and they can always create more money to pay off the debts in their own currency. The spending can grow the economy to its full capacity, eliminate things like unemployment, and finance major programs such as the NHS, and it can abolish tuition fees.
Yeah.
So MMT would say that money creation is a useful economic device, and it doesn't automatically devalue the currency or lead to inflation.
Right.
And it would argue that by insisting the government rein in its spending, like austerity, to balance its books, are basically where we get ourselves stuck in an underperforming economy and all the unemployment and lost opportunities that go along with it. Yeah. In the last stream, I've talked about austerity and how, say the government cuts the NHS and they lay off 10 nurses. Those 10 nurses will then stop going out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
And that restaurant will then lose money. And that restaurant might say, oh, we'll not change the wallpaper. So then a local building firm loses money. So they might say, oh, we'll stop going to the cinema. Then the cinema, basically a chain of people losing money. And the economy shrinks. MMT says you need to put money in to grow the economy.
And Lauren, it's a very good point you make, because aren't we seeing this now on the high street with the number of shops? I mean, there's all of this talk that, it's online retail, but the good old-fashioned shop, in my opinion, it doesn't disappear, because somebody is always going to need to go and walk to a shop. And let me tell you this as well, online prices aren't that much cheaper than the high street now, but we're seeing a lot of the high street shops, certainly the bigger chains, and if the bigger chains fall, then That doesn't mean that the smaller. I mean, I'm not an economist either, but certainly if the big businesses are falling, doesn't that have a knock-on effect to the businesses that are lower down in the hierarchy?
Yeah, because those working in big businesses, obviously, if they're losing money, they're going to start laying people off. And those people who are being laid off might stop shop, like going for their weekly coffee at their local coffee shop.
Yes.
Might not treat themselves to this nice handmade top that a local business owner made.
Yeah.
So, like, the economy is a knock-on effect. Everything affects everything.
Yeah.
But obviously, like as I said, MMT, most economists or economic experts in the past would say you can't go printing money. But the US Federal Reserve actually recently admitted that the government can print all the money it needs and nothing bad would happen.
Yeah.
Almost as if the people at the top don't want all the problems solved.
Well, and this is the thing that I was going to bring this on to, really, Lauren.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it just be great for those at the top, the so-called 1% who own most of the world's wealth? Isn't it in their interest that that gap actually widens?
Yeah, because with austerity, the gap widens. We've seen that after the 2008 financial crash in
Yeah.
most European countries, the gap between the richest and the poorest shrank. But in Britain, it grew.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm speechless. It doesn't happen often, but I'm speechless.
Yeah. 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 Isn't it? It's not just about that though, Lauren, isn't it? Actually, if we keep them at the bottom, then the likelihood of them being able to have a voice, and we talked about revolution a few minutes ago, didn't we? Doesn't it just, let's just look, if you're from a if you're living in a low income family, let's say, for example, right? And actually, the thoughts on your mind are, how am I going to feed my kids tonight? How am I going to put food on the table?
We begin to get a sense that the politicians at the top don't care. That's why anyone following my Twitter might have seen me joke that Brexit was a very British revolution.
Yeah.
And it was mainly the working classes voting against the political establishment that had held them down for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, I believe in Lexit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to come on to that in a few minutes, no doubt, because obviously,
we've seen in Japan, they run a deficit of 240% of the GDP, yet they have no inflation. New money creation is common and hyperinflation is actually rare. The deficit there implies that the government has spent a sum vastly greater than the entire value of the Japanese economy, but haven't taken in enough tax.
Yeah.
And MMT would say that the problem isn't the lack of money, it's the lack of labour or stuff that you can buy. They say you're more likely to run out of the money than you're more likely to run out of stuff than you are of the money, because it grows the economy.
Yeah. No, and there's absolutely no way that, it'd be difficult for a Labour government to bring in, let alone the Tories, because the last thing the Tories want is poor people getting richer.
Yeah, and it's like Japan's obviously a decently wealthy country. They're doing all right for themselves.
They are.
Inflation.
Yeah.
Their money's getting more valuable.
Yeah. So, what this would need, though, I think it's like we say, it requires a balance, doesn't it? Because somebody who is legislating for this and bringing this in, it's going to need some real responsible people who aren't basically mad and end up, because if you look at the reverse, it's really what's happening now is that there's lots and lots of money circulating in the system, but it's actually staying at the top, at those that are basically the custodians of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, MMP proposes that the government puts money into the economy, which is the opposite of what the Tories are doing, and this then results in higher employment and therefore more consumers to demand more goods and services. It's literally in direct opposition to the austerity measures, and we've seen austerity crash, burn, and fail, and basically slow our economy to a grinding halt. So why not try MMT? Because it's got the support of people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who isn't that left-wing, in my opinion, but she's one of the biggest voices in politics right now.
Yeah, 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 and that's right. And people on the left, they often get shouted down out there as madmen and women that basically don't know what they're talking about. But I think if you're absolutely right, I think we need radical change. And I'm not necessarily, I'm not, I don't know enough about this to legislate for it and to bring it but it's certainly what it does require is the theory behind it is about. I absolutely agree that the basis behind that is bringing poorer people out of poverty and being able to basically, Lauren, live a life where their water is clean, there's a roof over their heads, they have jobs, they're able to drive cars and eat well and eat healthily and show their children a better life. And I think that's a basic human right for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. There are loads of amazing articles out there on MMT. Chris Williamson's wrote loads for the Morning
That's
Star.
right, he has, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and for any young people listening, the best thing you can do is read as many articles about politics and economics as you can, because the best way to make change is to be informed and educate yourself on
Yeah.
your own terms and find your own information.
No, you're absolutely right, Lauren, and I think you are certainly an example of a young person who has researched and looking into things herself. Swiftly moving on to our final subject now, Lauren. I think that takes us nicely in. Now, many of our viewers today are going to be quite shocked and surprised to listen to a young person of under 18 years and have so much of a vast knowledge of politics and certainly the level of detail that you have displayed. But what I think a lot of them will be keen to hear is how you got into politics. And I know you said earlier that you studied politics at university, sort of come September. But tell us a little bit about the journey, how you ended. I know we've got about 5 or 6 more minutes left of the stream,
Yeah.
but tell us how you got in to politics and how active you are on social media at the moment.
It's something I've always been interested in. I remember literally as a child, my favourite programmes were BBC News and CBBC Newsround. I was a bit of an odd child.
No, no, me too. To be honest with you, I mean, I don't think that's odd, but carry on. Yeah,
One of my earliest memories is Gordon Brown becoming Labour leader,
yeah,
as you do.
yeah,
It's as I said, something I've always been interested in, but it wasn't until my 5th year at high school that I felt myself becoming more drawn and more interested in it. And it was a teacher I had at that time actually who really encouraged me to pursue politics, because up until then, I didn't really think of it as something that I would do at uni. I had no clue what I wanted to do really. I
yeah.
was very left wing though. I was still a Labour member then. But it was in my 6th year that I made my Twitter account, and I used it originally to retweet like articles I'd used for projects in my modern studies class.
Right.
And then I just went in some rant, and here we are still ranting.
So were you a bit of a ranter then in your school days then, Lauren? I bet you were.
Yes, I was known to go up to hand in a bit of homework or a bit of coursework and still be in the staff base at the end of lunchtime
Yeah.
ranting away about politics to most of the teachers who looked on in bemusement at this kid ranting at them, telling them to go out on strike.
Lauren the stock steward, Lauren the union rep, yeah?
Yeah, it wasn't even for the day off. That was the bonus, but I wanted to go out and join them.
Yeah. Wow. And what about your family? Did your family have any influence in your politics and your political views?
Not really. My parents aren't actually political, as they come from the very working class, apathetic side that, like, what have the politicians ever done for us? They don't actually care.
Yeah.
It was actually my mum who introduced me to Marxism.
Yeah.
Marxist theory when I was very young, actually. I went, even at my young age, I still went on rants about politics.
Wow.
I was on a rant in town about homelessness.
Yeah.
And how when you look on TV, you see people with so much wealth. Why are there people with so little?
Yeah.
So I started telling me about Karl Marx. And then here we are.
Yeah, no, and you live to tell the tale. And let's move a little bit on to talking about social media, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh,
There's a bit of a negative side as well, isn't there? Because I think, and certainly from my experience of social media, and these last couple of weeks have been really, really interesting, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That we have um, some young people who have used or have been involved in the platform of politics, and actually got themselves quite recognized social media accounts because of their
mm,
views, or they've had a public appearance on a television or a radio program. They've attracted then lots and lots of followers, 20, 30, 35,000 plus sort of followers. And I would certainly then call them. I mean, I would call people with a lot less number of followers, but certainly some of these individuals are, I would call them social media influencers.
ooh,
Now,
very
what we've seen certainly in the last few weeks, and I think it's probably been going on a lot longer than that, then, is unfortunately a sort of situation where socialists are arguing and fighting against socialists, because other socialists, because of their disagreements with one another. So, Lauren, tell us a little bit. Can social media be dangerous for the movement?
Yeah, I mean, on the last stream, I was telling you a little bit about stan culture.
Yeah. Tell what's stan culture. It's new to me.
Stan culture is something that's quite popular with teens now. Stan's obviously a wee joke about the Eminem song. It's basically when you really, really love celebrities or something. But
Yeah.
stans will also often cancel another celebrity for
Right.
an old tweet or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how up to date you are with the YouTube makeup scene,
Yeah.
but back earlier in the year, we saw, quite rightly so, a big star, Laura Lee, get cancelled and lose millions of subscribers. We saw James Charles recently get cancelled and lose more subscribers than anyone else had in 24 hours.
Wow.
And obviously, young people getting involved in politics is an amazing thing, but I think a lot of them are getting involved in bringing that stan culture over.
So there's this kind of disparity between, actually I want to do something for the movement, but I believe my own hype a little bit too much. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah. It also gets called cancel culture because people are so quick to cancel nowadays. The
Yeah.
thing I love about politics is it's always changing and you can always grow and always learn more. But the thing about cancel culture is it doesn't allow people to grow and learn more because if you make one mistake, that's it, you're cancelled.
Yeah.
Nobody wants
Yeah.
to hear from you anymore. And I think
Yeah.
over the past couple weeks, we've
Yeah.
seen that especially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Obviously,
there's one particular. I would call this person a social media influencer, and this person released a video about the types of the number of sort of abuse that that person had received on Twitter, and with examples, and highlighted a number of names of other sort of socialists and whatnot. And and I have to say, there was attempts for people to try and get me dragged into this. I would call it Twitter beef, but I said, look, our channel is about providing a platform for young people to discuss politics. We need to get the bloody Tories out, right? Now,
yeah.
if we are, and the problem with Twitter and social media and other platforms is it's all bloody public. If we are publicly airing our dirty laundry in front of everybody
Mm,
and fighting about, and I would say many of them are minuscule issues. Don't get me wrong. I don't condone the disrespect or the abuse of anybody on in any form, any way, sort of walk of life, whether it's online or in person or whatever.
yeah.
But I think you, as a social media influencer, have a responsibility now, right, to understand that this could happen and
Mhm.
actually ignore and block where it
Mhm.
doesn't suit you. Now, what we see then is a lot of effort going into putting out videos and exposing one
Yeah.
another. Whereas what I'm thinking is if you put this kind of effort into our politics, and actually, we are a broad church on the left, we have an array of, but let's say from the outset, Let's agree to disagree if we don't, right? And let's respectfully debate. And actually, let's not, the first time I've heard the term, let's not cancel each other. Let's respect each other, you know? And what sort of upsets me about this issue is that you got people sort of cancelling each other out and upsetting each other, but actually, it only strengthens the Tories, doesn't it, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like if you're getting abuse, speak out about it. But at the same time, obviously the account in question does get a lot of abuse. But at the same time, when you have that many followers, a small minority of your followers will go over to other accounts and attack.
Yes.
If you feel the need to do the exposing, blur
Yeah.
out names and profile pictures. I think that's courteous.
Yeah.
And on my life, we need to stop using terms like cranks.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot recently.
Yeah.
Have a debate, have a discussion, and at the end of the day, if you can't make your argument without using insults and reverting to words like crank, you don't have an argument and you've lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the bottom line. It's childish and I don't like you, so I'm calling you a name.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But the right is so united in the fact that they like killing poor people. I had to. The Tories, they may be divided.
Retweets are not endorsement of those views.
The Tories, they may be completely in chaos over Brexit, but they unite over one thing: killing poor people. They love it.
No, I mean, but you know, Lauren, you have a good point. You have a serious point there behind there that the right are united and they're organised, aren't they?
Yeah,
And
they are.
and the left, and certainly, and this is what disappoints me is that the left, especially a lot of the young wing of the left, seems to be partaking in a lot of infighting. Now, as I said, that I've had conversations with individuals who've tried to drag me in one way or another, and I've said, listen, I'm friends with everyone and I'm friends with no one. And what this channel is about is defeating the Tories. It is about bringing young people towards socialism and towards and whichever brand of that socialism. You know, there's some people that talk about being a little bit more harder and whatnot. As long as you maintain the basic tenets of humanity and respect. So there's, you know, we don't endorse any form of discrimination, of any racism or anything like that whatsoever. As long as your views are respectable, right? And I think, what did you say to me on Friday? As long as you write something that what?
Oh crap! I've forgotten.
That your granny wouldn't mind, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, for a while I used to get. Obviously, I mentioned that for a while I was getting a lot of really horrible abuse on Twitter.
Yeah.
I was essentially cancelled for something that I didn't actually really do.
Yeah.
I have receipts to back that up, so exposed video.
Listen, that's on a different stream, Lauren, that one, yeah?
Yeah, but another time. But I was getting really mad for a while and replying to people. But then I realised these people are taking the time out of their day to sit and reply. Like, find my account, call me all the names under the sun.
Yeah.
And then I started finding that funny and stopped replying. And then after I slept on it for a couple of days, I decided I'm not gonna tweet something if I wouldn't be happy with my gran reading it.
Yeah, exactly.
My gran has a pretty high tolerance for the stuff that I say. She's used to it. But still, treat someone the way you'd like someone to treat your gran.
No, I think that's a really, really good point. Lauren, what's your final sort of point now to young people, young bidding socialists that are sort of using social media at the moment? What's your final message?
Allow people to grow. Also, hate no one apart from Tom Watson and the Tories.
Oh my God!
Blue rights are allowed in that category.
Our friend Mr. Watson. I mean, yeah. I mean, me, Sonny, and I, again, due to technical errors, we weren't able to get that stream up, but we did an excellent stream on Mr. Watson, and that will be up shortly as well, guys. So please stay tuned. But yeah, no, Lauren, brilliant message. And listen, I think, you know, I'm proud of you, because at such a young, tender age, you have such vast knowledge and absolute enthusiasm, um, to promote the socialist movement and to bring young people together. Listen, I can't wait to get you on another show. Look, there's a possible general election looming, and we look forward to speaking to each other regularly. I want to say though, for now, good luck in your studies. And where did you say that you going to uni? If you can say.
Whirling, it's the same one that Richard Leonard went to.
Right. Wow. Okay. Okay. And that starts in September.
Yeah, September the 7th, I move up there.
And just tell our viewers what your Twitter handle is, so you can get some more followers if you didn't want them already.
Life isn't about the numbers, it's also about the patter.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's at Polity_gal_. On another
Excellent.
time, I might tell you the story behind the name.
All right. Well, we'll get that next time, no doubt. Okay, excellent. All right, guys, listen, I've been Harry Khan. Please help us grow this channel. We have had some viewers on this evening. We are, don't forget, competing with Peaky Blinders, and if I wasn't doing this stream right now, I would certainly be watching it. The only problem is I haven't watched some of the earlier last few episodes of the last series, so I'm not going to watch this one now. But like I say, if you are watching this after the live stream, would appreciate a like, subscribe to the channel, and following us on Twitter for more content. As I say, I've been Harry Khan for Youthviewz. I look forward to seeing you all soon. God bless and good night.